Happy New Year, and welcome back to the last video store, my return shoot rats. It is I, your master and dearest friend, and hopefully your mentor in movies, Alexei Toliopoulos, welcoming you to the program, to the new year, and doing what I love to do best, celebrating film, talking about cinema, and conversing about movies. And what we do on this show is we talk to interesting people about their favorite films. And this episode, to kick off the year, it's a little bit of a bonus episode, a little treat for you guys. A little bit different in that what better way to start the new year than to wrap up the old one. So we're talking the best of film, movies, cinema of 2024. And I'm joined by one of my favorite people to talk to about film. That is Kate Jinx. Kate Jinx is a film critic. She is also a programmer for the Melbourne International Film Festival, a podcaster as well. One of my favorite podcasts is co-hosted by Kate Jinx. It's called See Also, one of the great podcasts about popular culture, beyond just film, beyond TV, everything that is happening right now in the zeitgeist. I love talking to Kate Jinx. We used to review films together on The Mix on ABC TV for many years. So it's always great to make an excuse to talk to Kate about the best films of the year. And we've done it again. And not just once, but it's going to be a two-parter. This first episode is going to be a top 5, my top 5 for 2024, Kate's top 5 for 2024, and then next week there'll be another bonus episode that will be more of the best of 2024 in cinema, etceteras. So documentary feature films, Australian cinema, talking about current contemporary Australian cinema, what's happening right now, our favorite Aussie films of the year, and then directorial debuts, which is something that we love to keep track of, to see who the stars, the bright stars of cinema in the future will be. And there were some really great films that fall into that directorial feature category this year. And then the honorable mentions, the films that didn't quite make our list or don't fit into those other categories that maybe have not even been on the radar so much, but we wanted to highlight. And I think that's Kate and I's approach to talking about film. It's less of a critical discussion and more of a curatorial discussion where we talk, hopefully revealing and helping you, the dear listener, discover films that you might have missed. Hopefully get your taste validated along the way as well by talking about some films that you hopefully loved as well. But really, that's what we love to do, is to search, wander, find films for you to discover as well. And hopefully you fall in love with them the same that we do, or even deeper, or even shallower, which I'll allow as well. But yeah, great episode, great way to start the year. We've got a great episode coming out later this week, which is back in format, full discussion with one of my favorite filmmakers, the director of Tickled, one of my favorite documentary films that shaped how I want to make documentaries. David Farrier is on the show. It's unbelievable, so cool, love David Farrier. That's a great discussion, great episode. But until then, enjoy our first part of a two-part Best of 2024 in Cinema wrap-up episode.
The last video store.
Thank you, Kate Jinx, for sliding through the return chute and joining me here in the back room of the last video store.
Oh, thank you, Alexei, for having me. I mean, it's always a delight to be talking movies. We've been doing it for many years now together.
Yeah, I think it's almost approaching a decade of you and I discussing film together. But,
I think so. And it's films that brought us together. It's a beautiful thing, right?
That's it. You know, our friendship is based around it. I remember years ago you said, how about we do a podcast not about movies? And then we never came up with an idea.
Yeah, that sounds like us.
But I've been wanting to get you on this show for basically the past year since we started kicking it off. And I thought, what better way for you and I to chat together about movies on this new show than doing what we do best, a year wrap up. We're going to talk about some of our favorite movies of the year, 2024. How would you define this year in cinema? in 17 words or more or less?
Look, I think it was actually a pretty strong year for cinema. There were some huge blockbusters that did very well, not in the kind of Barbenheimer situation, but like you look at Megalopolis, etc., that brings people back into cinema. But there were a lot of kind of standout, like quote unquote, like art house titles that jumped out of festival life and into kind of more, I don't know, like normal cinema screenings. And yeah, I saw it. I mean, it's my job, so I see a lot of films. I mean, I saw my fair share of duds too, but for me, it was hard to do a top five. How do you feel about the year?
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. I think last year felt like a very strong, like an outwardly strong year, especially like you mentioned, Barbenheimer, people going back to the cinema in a big way. And then like interesting art house or independent films. I think last year was a really great year for Australian cinema in particular as well.
Yeah, you're right.
This year feels a little bit different, but it's almost like hard to place what the big giant hits were until kind of now at the end of the year. But yeah, for me, it's a bit different as well because the last couple of years, because I've not been reviewing anywhere in any kind of formal way or informal way as well, it's I've been kind of left to my own devices to kind of see what I want to see. So I've seen very few duds. I've seen mainly films that I wanted to see that I thought I would like. So it's been a very positive year to films for me.
Well, that's nice. I mean, yeah, look, I do see a huge amount of films for my work at MIF, but like you, I mean, the only criticism I've been doing this year is like I've been writing regularly for the monthly, and there I get to kind of go relatively long form on two films that I have something to say. Like I have thoughts and opinions on. Usually I love them, but sometimes there's a little, they're not like perfect films or anything, but they're films that I want to share with other people.
Yes.
So I'm not kind of reviewing everything that comes out anymore. I've kind of left that behind, which is great because it means I can be more kind of thoughtful about film.
I think that's where you and I have like a very similar approach to film in that we want to kind of help people discover the films that we think that they'll love, or kind of like through our weaving through our kind of collecting our adventures in movie going, bring films to people that we think they'll love. It's more of a curator job than a critic job, I'd say, for you and I these days.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, putting films in dialogue with each other and with audiences and like connecting the dots, I suppose.
And I think what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about some of our very favorite films, and then we'll kind of go into a bit more minutiae categories. And I would say perhaps our lists or our bundles, our baskets full of movies there. I don't know why I'm going like picnic style with this. But I'm going to go, our baskets full of movies that we're bringing to you are kind of probably a bit more all over the place. They might be things that you have seen, might be things that you, the listener or watcher, have not seen. But hopefully we're going to introduce you to some great films and hopefully along the way validate your own taste and go like, wow, these two big nerds like the same things that I like. How wonderful. I feel validated by that. But that might not be the case, but you'll be getting away with some great stuff too. Well, should we get into like a kind of, let's say a top five? A top five of the year.
Let's say a top five.
We'll say a top five.
And we'll see how that goes.
We'll see how we go. This is tough to bring it down to a five. I'm working from a list of 24 films currently, and some have risen to that top quite easily. Some have been popping in and popping out of my list for quite some time. But, Kate, let's start with you. What's in your fifth spot? We'll build up to a top spot, perhaps, shall we?
Okay, well, my fifth spot is something that I thought I would be talking about last, and I hate that this is going to paint me in a particular light.
Wow.
However...
Let's paint you. I'm getting the paints out. I'm getting the lights out. We're painting you in that particular light right now. You're being chiaroscuroed right now.
Oh, wow. It's Trap by M. Night Shyamalan.
Oh, my gosh. I'm melting. I'm delighted.
This was probably the best time I had in the cinema this year. I didn't see a review screening, like an early screening. I don't know if there even was one.
Wow.
It
Kate
certainly wasn't.
Jinx immersed in the unwashed masses of regular audiences?
Yeah, out with the creatures. I saw this on opening day at Thornbury Picture House, and I took my nephew who was visiting from Sydney,
Wow.
and
A perfect movie to take a nephew to, I reckon.
well, it's seen everything else. I thought, oh, we'll go and see Long Legs, but he'd already seen it, and I was like, well, he's going to have to come see Trap with me then, and we just had such a great time. It was a ridiculous film. It's certainly not a masterpiece, and it's not a great film, and it's nowhere near M. Night Shyamalan's best, but it's his best in a while, and it just features the most unhinged performances in a film that I have seen, aside from Megalopolis, like in a film that works for me, I would say. It's like Josh Hartnett. What is his face doing the entire film? I don't know. What directions was he being given by Night? Like, I don't understand. I loved seeing Hayley Mills pop up. What a performance.
Yes, of course. If you're setting a trap for a parent, who better to get than the original Parent Trapper?
Absolutely. And I was thrilled to see Alison Pill's like giant moonish face on screen again. I love that woman. I love that face.
I had a great time with this film as well, Kate. I just caught up with it while I was glazing my Christmas ham, and no, that's not a euphemism. But I had a great time with it. I'm a big Shy guy. I love M. Night Shyamalan. I've actually loved his most recent run of films. I thought Knock at the Cabin was fantastic. I love Glass. And
I haven't seen Glass.
it is the third in his Unbreakable trilogy, following Split and Unbreakable. I quite like that. A misunderstood, maligned film, as is most of his filmography. But I think Trap is just a ton of fun, and that Josh Hartnett performance is just great casting. I think he just cast him so well because he's so likable. Everyone has a love for Josh Hartnett. I think getting him to play in and against type in this film, it's just very clever.
Yeah. Well, a great time at the movies, and that's what we're after, isn't it, Alexei?
Of course, and one of the many films that represent girl pop summer that we all just lived through.
Yeah, what's your number 5?
Number 5 was a tough spot for me. I was kind of thinking about, like, one of the other things I really liked this year is I think this was a great year for fun sex movies or stuff that were kind of erotically charged and kind of sex thrillers. And there was a pair of films that I got it down to. Honorable mention to Femme, which I thought was a fantastic queer sex thriller. Just loved that film, but it just got nudged out by 2 films I'll talk about a little bit together. Challenges by Luca Guadagnino. Think it was just maybe the most fun I had at the cinema all year. I saw it twice. I thought it was just so expressive in the way that it used camera, the way that it's able to tell this tennis story, its way it's able to kind of play through this intersecting, tessellating love triangle. Great performances, but it's just like so pure cinema where you're getting to interpret tennis in so many different interesting ways. It feels like an anime at certain points. Like the final matchup feels like freaking Dragon Ball Z with tennis. Dragon Ball Gen Z, is that funny? I might cut that out of the podcast.
I like it. Keep it in.
And the other one that I just saw that is probably being released in Australian cinemas this week is starring our very own Nicole Kidman, Babygirl, from director Helena Rain, who had the film last year, Bodies, 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 which I didn't love, but I loved Babygirl. And it felt like such a return to a familiar place for Nicole Kidman and her co-star in this, Antonio Banderas, who, when you think about their early part of the career, so much of it is charged with erotic thriller elements, from Dead Calm for Nicole Kidman to Law of Desire for Antonio Banderas, even Original Sin, a movie that I watched hidden behind the couch as my parents watched it. I just thought this was such a fun, expression of sex through status and quite like it's delicious in the way that an erotic kind of charged film should be. Have you had a chance to see Baby Girl yet, Kate?
Sadly not. I'm really looking forward to it. I really need a good performance out of our Nick after watching her in that The Perfect Couple TV show, because that accent is pretty wild in that. But I do love our Nick, and I love Harris Dickinson. Great in Scrapper, great in Triangle of Sadness, of course. And I liked Bodies, Bodies, Bodies a lot. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this one in the cinema. Challenges, I didn't love. It's probably my least favorite, Luca.
Wow, it might be my most favorite.
Wow. I really wanted to love it. I thought the script by Justin Kretzky's was great, but I loved the other final match, but I didn't. There was just something missing from it. And I loved watching everyone on screen, obviously.
Not in the audience, facing the other way from the screen.
Can you imagine? Like a Rocky Horror experience. But yeah, I don't know. There was just something kind of a miss for me. Maybe I need to see it again.
Oh, yes. I think you should see it every day until you form Stockholm Syndrome. I love it. I would say, on your point, Nicole Kidman is fantastic in Baby Girl. And it is interesting seeing her go back to this genre and seeing her kind of approach this material that is a little bit familiar to her, but through a different part in her life, like in a different age setting. I think there's something in that is... I don't know. It's so interesting the way it plays with status, and her and Dickinson together. It's a great pairing performance. Yeah,
she is great in kind of like a darker sex film, or like film that features kind of a lot of erotic performances. Like there's tension. Like even if you're looking at like Killing of a Sacred Deer, or Eyes Wide Shut, even, or
of course.
I mean To Die For, obviously. Even like Birth, She's good at that.
Birthday Girl. I think she's great. Yeah, it's such a good spot for her. I think it's her finest performance in quite some time, only because it's one of her best performances ever.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to your number 4 film.
Okay, my number 4 is a film that I didn't love the first time I saw it, and I really expected to, because I'd heard so much about it, and I was really late to it for a bunch of professional reasons. But I saw it again, and I figured out it was just like my mood the first time I saw it. Just didn't match up, because I'd seen a film just before it that I really didn't like, which I will
even
not
the pros
disclose.
can be tainted going into the cinema. Let it be known.
All We Imagine Is Light by Payal Kapadia. Just gorgeous. It played at Cannes, and the other programmer for MIF saw it there, and we played it at MIF, and I actually couldn't get into one of our own screenings. I had tickets to them, but they were so close to selling out each time. I was like, I cannot take a ticket from the public. I will give my ticket back. And so I finally saw it at the New York Film Festival, and she spoke afterwards, and it was a really illuminating conversation with the director. I loved her first film too. And I mean, it's just this kind of gorgeous, sort of luminous, almost dreamlike film at the beginning about 2 women in Mumbai who are nurses and housemates, and they're kind of both looking for something. The older woman, her husband has moved to Germany and has become kind of estranged, and she's working out her next steps and whether she really needs to let go, while her younger housemate is in kind of an interfaith relationship that is not okay with her family, and needs to kind of find these kind of clandestine spaces within the city of Mumbai to meet up. It's very beautiful, and I'm so glad that I saw it a second time with fresh eyes.
Me too. This is one of my favorites of the year. I'm so glad you had it on your list, because it's somewhere in mine somewhere. I love this film. I think what it does best is it kind of captures this visual poetry of something quite specific, which is seeing this urban city landscape in like through the lens of night in a really good way. Like it's a great nocturnal film because it's about these nurses. Of course, they're leaving work at like 2, 3 a.m. and it's a completely different city. I think that's what really captured me about this film. That's All We Imagine Is Light. Great film, Kate.
What's yours?
This was probably my first favorite film of the year, and I've come back to it from Rose Glass. It is Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh my God, I love this film. I'm so glad it's on your list.
The best way to describe it is hard neo-noir, hard body horror, hard bodies. I think it's all this familiar territory if you like noir cinema or neo-noir cinema more specifically. You would be familiar with these kind of plots, but there's all these, like the pieces are in such a unique shape for this film that when they're kind of cracked together, they do so with like such magnetic, unique energy. I don't know, this just vibrates at a different frequency. It's basically a neo-noir film set in this, I guess, desert world in America in the 1980s in like a bodybuilding community in a certain degree. Well, one of the lead characters is a female bodybuilder. And I just found this to be just so fantastic. I like this so much more than Rose Glass's previous film, which was a horror film. What's that
Saint
film?
Maud.
Saint Maud. That I really want to love that film. Didn't quite connect for me, but this just was right on my level, right down the line for me. I loved this film. If you haven't seen it, I think it just plays like such a ripper. It was just one that instantly I knew I was loving it. And you know when something feels so your taste? I was sitting behind critic Michael Sun from The Guardian, and at the end of the movie, he turned
I've
around
heard of him.
and he was just like, I knew that you would love this movie. While I was watching it, all I could do is think about your eyes watching it and falling in love with it. I go, okay, well, you caught me right there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this film. I loved how dusty and sweaty it was, and look, a big year for like muscle gals shooting up between this and The Substance.
Yeah,
but it also had a great soundtrack. That Gina X, Nice Mover. Oh God, I love that song. And Martin Rev's Whisper that plays over the end credits, like when they're kind of dancing. Yeah, I loved the like giantess in sports bras scene. That's probably one of the best scenes I've seen on screen all year. I saw it at the Berlinale and I had to get a man to stop continuously checking his emails through it.
Oh my gosh.
The sacrilege.
How dare he? They didn't have emails in this movie. What's he doing? You got to be immersed, brother. Immerse yourself in the giantess.
Exactly.
I think it's a great like breakout movie star performance from Katie O'Brien as well. Just one of the first performances I fell in love with all year. That's Love Lies Bleeding. Definitely a huge recommendation from both of us. Kate, moving on to your number 3.
All right.
Points of the list.
This is one that could easily have been number 1. Do you know, I don't like it. It's so good. But the top 3 are just, they all could be number 1, but I had to even it out. Because you're so cruel and I knew I would be in trouble.
Yes. I'm putting the snipers at ease right now. We don't need to cause any action.
Stand down. It's Sean Baker's Anora. A pretty perfect film. This is, just loved it. This, you know, also won big at Cannes, like All We Imagine Is Light did. And it's just I've seen it a number of times now, and I was lucky enough to interview Sean Baker a few weeks ago after a screening. And I really love his films. I think he is a really special director. I love how he kind of works with and embeds himself in the communities that he makes films about. I think that a lot of people level this complaint about him that he is like, who is he to make these films? He's just this like blue collar, like white collar guy from New Jersey. And I just think he makes films with such empathy, and I don't think that there's anything exploitative or fetishistic about his films, actually. These are just his interests, and these are the kinds of people that he's interested in, and these are the kinds of people I'm interested in, and, you know, their stories and films. This, of course, is 3 films in one, basically, about a stripper and escort who is taken out of her Manhattan like labyrinthine club that she works in headquarters when she meets this young, very rich Russian guy, and they kind of fall for each other in a very what seems to be a very real way. And then it turns into this kind of goose chase film. It's so funny. It's so sad. It has absolutely everything. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is gorgeous. Loved it. Mikey Madison, what an incredible performance.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love this film. It would be up there with Tangerine as my favorite from Sean Baker as well. And you're right, it is that like immersive approach that he has that unlocks so much empathy towards their characters. I think this has just astonishing comedic escalation with every twist and turn. It reminded me of John Cassavetes' Husbands, like that kind of getting drunker, getting more intense as everything continues going on, as everything keeps ramping up, all the stakes keep getting higher, and everybody keeps getting more angry. Just such funny comedic escalation. And the other thing that I haven't really seen much spoken about, but a unique thing with this movie is I think it's a great look at modern diaspora in an interesting way, that Russian diaspora where Mikey's character is like third generation Russian, and then you've got this son of this oligarch. So you see these like status change, the way that kind of status plays with each other. And it's that very specific, like, it's Brooklyn Beach is it Brooklyn Beach?
Is it Manhattan Beach?
Manhattan Beach? I bet you know.
No,
that,
it's like down at Coney Island. I can't. Yeah.
We're not Americans. Let it be known. We only learn about this stuff from watching The Warriors growing up, so we don't know what it's called.
Well, I have been to Tatiana's, the restaurant that they go to in the film. But yeah, I just thought, I love this film so much. I've seen it so many times now, and it really is a film that you get something new out of every single watch. Like the first time you watch it, you're kind of edge of your seat. Like what is going to happen to Anora, Annie? And then as you watch it progressively, it's like, oh, this is what this other character is thinking or doing and setting themselves up. Just is such a good film. I loved the Florida Project too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Red Rocket?
Oh, yeah, Red Rocket, of course. Simon Rex, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, great choice. Anora, I think, easily one of the best films. And just like a great straight up and down recommendation, I reckon take your parents to go see this one with you if you're listening to this podcast.
All right, okay, all right. Don't get carried away, Alexei.
But I love this film. Love Anora.
Okay, what's yours? Number 3.
My number 3, and like you, the top 3 could be switched around in any order. I love all these films. They're all films. I kind of guess what my list boiled down to in the end was films that I still feel complete enthusiasm for, and films that I really still feel an excitement for. And this is a film that I would describe as miraculous. This is the latest film from one of my favorite filmmakers, one of the masters of cinema, George Miller. This is Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, prequel to Fury Road, and I guess all the Mad Max films. We take a look back at like the life of Furiosa, the character played by Charlize Theron in Fury Road, now played by Anya Taylor-Joy, and also in a younger performance by Alila Brown, a great Australian actor on the rise. I love saying that, declaring people to be future stars. They're on the rise. Their star is on the rise, and it is sparkling. But I think what I really appreciate about this is that it has this balance that I did not anticipate, where Fury Road is this very direct, kinetic, straightforward, linear plot. This film has all of those trappings in there, but it also balances that out with almost the exact opposite, which is this epic spanning saga, this odyssey, this like decade-long story as well. And somehow it kind of finds this balance between them with all this kind of primal, visceral action that melted your mind back in Fury Road. And I think there's even a car chase sequence that is better than the entirety of Fury Road as well, like a truck convoy sequence. I really love this film. You only get this by getting George Miller in the director's seat. I can't see anyone else achieving anything like this. I loved Chris Hemsworth's performance in this, playing this bogan, apocalyptic captain. And it's one of those bogan intellectuals, you know, where they use, like, they have this certain manner of speaking where they hit every word so hard, every syllable. It's a unique Australian accent you don't hear very often. But there's also either a real intellect or a fake intellect behind it that I think works so well. And I don't know if you know this because you haven't seen this movie, have you, Kate?
No.
One of your guys is in this movie.
Which guy? Who are my
From
guys?
The Souvenir, Tom Burke.
Oh, I love Tom Burke.
And he plays the kind of Mad Max-esque character in this, and he is fantastic in this film.
Okay, well, that is the reason why I might see this film, because I didn't love the first one. I love George Miller, and I loved so many of his films, but Furiosa, not my vibe.
I think give it a shot. Now you know Tom Burke's in it.
No, I know.
I think that's the selling point, because seeing him in Souvenir, I would never anticipate him being cast in this, but I think that's the genius of George Miller, is that he sees something in someone and how they would live in his post-apocalypse. It's a really small, understated performance in this big, exciting world. It's just I love Furiosa. I think it's just it's I don't know, I just think it was beautiful. I'll see it again and again.
All right, look, it seems like a summer film that I could watch, you know. Another dusty, sweaty film.
Yes, get your dust on, get your sweat on. That's my number 3. Kate, we're at your number 2 spot.
Yeah, this is hard. And this one technically hasn't come out in Australia yet, but it did play at the British Film Festival. I saw it at the New York Film Festival. But I was like, who knows if Alexei, after this number 5, my top 5 might not meet Alexei's requirements, and he might not ask me on next year. So I didn't want to risk not being able to talk about this film. It's Mike Leigh's Hard Truths.
Oh my gosh, that's my number 2 as well.
Really?
Yes, I love this movie. I love this film.
Wow, isn't it just incredible? Like, I love Mike Leigh's films. Mm-hmm. I've struggled a little with a couple of his more recent films, the period dramas.
Yes.
And they're beautifully shot films, but nothing kind of like, his golden, 80s, 90s period for me. But this is just... Oh, God, like, talk about empathy. I don't know how this man made this film. It is like just a beautiful collaboration with Marianne Jean-Baptiste. He hasn't made a film with her since 1996 when he did Secrets and Lies, which is one of my all-time faves. Mm-hmm. And she is just the most difficult character. Bear with me for one sec. I need to pull up.
I've got it here.
Okay,
I know exactly what you're going to pull up, and I've got it here.
Can you please then read John Waters' critique of this film, his review of this film? We don't even need to say anything more about this film because John Waters has nailed it.
He puts it so well. To categorize this whole film is through this performance, which is, as described by him, Marianne Jean-Baptiste plays the most unpleasant sourpuss woman in the history of cinema. And he also calls her a horrible mother and a horrible wife. But I think it's all about that performance. And basically what it is, it's like you're seeing the full life of someone that you encounter maybe once or twice a year, which is just someone out there in the world who treats everyone awfully, who walks the world with anger and pain and inflicts that anger and pain on any unsuspecting people out there in the world. And it's played by one of the master actors. And that re-teaming of Marianne Jean-Baptiste and Mike Leigh is just superb. And I think you hit on something that I think is the thing I love about this movie is how does this guy make this movie? How does like a 900-year-old white Jewish guy make this film that feels so immersed in like the Caribbean diaspora in England? And it is because he is one of the great collaborators of film. Like he collaborates so immersively with his ensemble of actors where the film is built out of who he wants to work with. And this film is like a testament to collaboration in cinema and kind of being a conduit to tell stories for and with other people. Just think it's great. I can't agree with you more on this film.
Yeah. And it was just so... like the moments, like she's just such a bitter, harsh character, and you're
Mm.
with her for so much of the film. But then you get these incredible moments of like joy and light through her sister and her sister's daughters, her nieces.
Yes.
And they are just kind of these more kind of free spirited people who, they're still, their dad's not there, they're living in housing commission. It's like, it's not like they have this kind of incredible, prosperous, like in terms of finance kind of life. But they have so much joy within their family and so much love and community. It's just every time you see any of those women on screen, it's like this absolute sense of relief. Like you breathe this huge, there's a huge amount of relief that you feel when they're there, and when they disappear off screen, you're like, oh no, we're with her again. And it's just, it's extraordinary film. And I saw Mike Lee do an intro and Q&A, which was probably like the highlight of my
Holy
year.
shit, dude.
And Marianne Jean-Baptiste was also there. And in the introduction, he refused to say anything really about his film. And he said that directors who get up and speak before their films and reveal too much information should be taken out the back and shot, is what he said.
I hope that's his
And-
next movie, a snuff film of him killing directors.
And everyone was just like laughing in the audience. It was great. But then when he came back up for the Q&A, it was so thoughtful. He gave every dumb question asked by the audience such a thoughtful, generous response. Bless that man. But he was also quite combative, like when he was speaking back to these questions he didn't really like. And I just, because I wasn't moderating, I adored that. Wouldn't have wanted to moderate that. But yeah, he was great. And he was talking about how much he hates casting by video. Like he only does it in person, and he just gets people to come in and he'll have a chat, and then that's it. And then he still doesn't really work from script as such.
Yeah.
It's kind of made all in the room. What an extraordinary filmmaker.
Yeah, one of the best. I took my mum to see this film at the British Film Festival because her favorite film of all time is Secrets and Lies. So I was like, okay, I got to get her there. Took her. We just had the best time with this. And it's such an understated magic trick because it is this kind of naturalistic film. But it's such a great cinematic magic trick to introduce you to someone that you should hate and then slowly teach you how to love them and make you curious about what it is about them that makes them this way. And dare I say it, so funny. Every time she launches into a tirade and eviscerates someone, they are so funny and so well written. Like, they're so, well written, well performed. I don't know if they were written down, but they are just so exacting and so funny and just got some great comedic juxtapositions in there. I think this might be my favorite performance of the year as well. Like, I just love this.
It was really funny. Like the scene at the dentist and the scene at the furniture store, they are perfect. Just like in the grocery line. Wow.
I love that grocery line.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see this one again. Yeah.
And, I would highlight another performance in this as well. Because this is our shared number 2, we can spend a little bit more time on this film. Why not? But this actor who I don't think I'd ever seen before, Tuane Barrett, who plays her son. This is such a great and unique encapsulation of shyness and adult shyness in a way. Very lonely and timid, but feeling quite powerful in the way that it's reflecting like another kind of person you see every day, just someone who's alone and lonely. Great performance and a testament to Mike Lee's ensemble style of filmmaking where you have great actors building characters in collaboration with each other. I just love this film. I thought it was remarkable.
Yeah, great film. All right, on to number 1.
Yeah, number one. Kate, you kick us off.
All right. Okay, my favorite film, I think, of the year is a film I've seen it a number of times still. I think it's streaming now. It didn't really get a cinema release, which is a travesty. It was on a lot of planes, though.
Wow.
It played some festivals. It played MIFF. It's Janet Planet by Annie Baker.
Oh, I'm so glad you put this in your list. You put this on my radar when I came down to Melbourne Film Festival, and I loved it as well. Great film, great choice.
Excellent film. I mean, it's set in 1991 about mother and daughter who live in kind of the woods in Western Massachusetts. The mum is an acupuncturist. She has her own kind of esoteric style healing studio on the property, and they live in this beautiful house. And it's about her. She's played by Julianne Nicholson, Janet. Great role. And it's all about this relationship she has with her 11-year-old daughter, Lacey. And it starts in such a funny way. It's just such an unnerving start to a film of this like little girl calling up her mother from summer camp, begging to come home, and then like threatening to kill herself if her mum doesn't come and get her. And it's just, oh God, it just like opens in just such a perfect way. And then it's because it's such a gentle film as well. But that Lacey, like she's this little, she's such a curious little tyrant, this girl. I love her. And she's so needy and dependent on her mum. She loves her mum so much. But her mum is trying to kind of extricate herself from her at times, as mothers do. They can't be touching her daughter constantly like Lacey wants. And it's about these different relationships in Janet's life. With a lover, a really old friend played by Sophie Okonedo in one of her best roles to date. She's incredible. And then potentially another kind of romantic partner who is linked to the best friend. And we see these people kind of come in and come out of her life, like ebb and flow through her life, and Lacey's reactions to all of them. But the thing that I really love about this film is that in a lot of films you will see like characters like who are kind of living on the fringes of that kind of like they might be a part of a kind of a commune or quasi kind of cult, dare we say, or they're really into like alternative healing practices. They're living kind of a little off grid, and they become the source of amusement for that their plot point is that they're funny because what they do and what they think is funny. But this film, like Annie Baker takes those characters really seriously, and I adored that. I haven't seen that in a film, I feel, before, like outside of like Kelly Reichardt or something. But Annie Baker, was a playwright, and this is her first feature. It's such an extraordinary debut feature film, and I wish I'd been able to see some of her theatre works in person. I never have, but and she made one called The Flick that she won the Pulitzer for, which was all set in a movie cinema with ushers while they were cleaning up between sessions. What a great idea!
It's so funny, Kate, because I had read that play earlier this year, and when you sent me to see Janet Planet, I had no idea. It was days later where I realized it was the same person.
How funny.
I love this film. I would also give a shout out to the other lovers in this, Will Patton, and one of my fellows, Elias Koteas, a fellow Hellenic actor. I love Elias Koteas, best known for playing Casey Jones in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah, shout out Casey Jones.
Shout out to Casey Jones, one of my favorite hockey-wielding characters. I really love this as well, and I think it does something that I love so much in cinema, is capturing a very specific perspective. And you see so much of this world through this little girl's eyes, and it's done with such care and such thought. I'm just going to read you what I wrote down after seeing this film, because there's this moment that enveloped me and just kind of clicked this movie into place. We see Lacey, our preteen protagonist, laying flat under a dining table, just staring at her mother's lost earring on the ground. You kind of see dust particles floating around, and it just perfectly captured this pleasant feeling of the boredom of childhood for me, which is a feeling I've not felt for a long time, because I've been a grown man for most of my life now. But just being bored as a kid, like you very rarely feel bored in this modern day. But when you're a kid, it's just this, not an unpleasant feeling. It's quite a nice feeling of just time slowly wafting around you. And then a little later on, you see just, it's not even called attention to, but you see the mother wearing mismatched earrings. And one of them is the pairs with the earring that's lost under the table that you just never see. It's never brought up. And I just thought, that's this kind of film.
Yeah.
If you're seeking cinema that gives you those feelings, this is it.
Yeah, and all those little weird little things that Lacey does. She makes her little hats out of like chocolate foil for these
Hmm.
like collection of sort of dolls that she's made or found. And she's like in the shower and she is sticking her hair that's kind of fallen out like onto the shower
Yeah.
wall, just like these bizarre little things. Yeah, it brought back a lot of childhood memories. Beautiful film, but it's not. It's like it's told almost through the eyes of this little girl, 11-year-old girl. But it is a film really about adult relationships. It's not kind of a coming of age film in that
Mm.
way. Yeah, just gorgeous. Love it.
Oh wow. Okay, beautiful choice. We're at my number one choice. So, Kate, I might instruct you to crack your knuckles and get ready because
I'm sitting.
you're sitting down for this one. This is a film that I was anticipating somewhat out of curiosity and complete interest. This is from Australian filmmaker, made in Australia, made in Melbourne, the town you live in right now, Kate. This is Michael Gracey's, dare I say it, masterpiece.
You said it, didn't you?
A biographical musical biopic film about Robbie Williams as told through the eyes of Robbie himself as a CGI chimpanzee. I just think this is an incredibly bold swing. I remember reading about it in either Variety or the Hollywood Reporter years ago now. And it was just this one sentence tossed in like they didn't know how crazy it was that they were announcing this film, and it was just one sentence saying, and Robbie Williams would be portrayed by a CGI chimpanzee in the film. No elaboration, no editorialism around it, just chucking it in there. And for years, it's fascinated me. Even someone that I worked with on Finding Yeezus, one of the sound guys, he worked on the live concert film that they taped in Melbourne just before we filmed that. And I made him, as his boss and employer, I know that you signed an NDA, mate, but you have to tell me, is he a freaking monkey in the movie? And he revealed, yes, he was a monkey. And then earlier this year at the Actor Awards, I was lucky enough to share a dressing with Michael Gracey. He locked the doors, turned off the lights, and showed me a clip of the monkey. And that was when I was convinced. He told me I was one of the first people in the world to see it. And I was convinced in that moment that there's something quite special in this gimmick, and it works straight away where you kind of find this strange empathy for this character of Robbie Williams because he's different from everyone else. And in the film, when you meet him as a child, and there's some beautiful film grain on all these childhood scenes of the monkey, but I immediately feel empathy for this chimpanzee child because he feels different. And you're seeing someone who feels so at odds with the world around him. And it's this great expressive performance in the physicality from actor John O'Davies, in the vocal performance from Robbie Williams, and then also in the CGI performance put together by the filmmakers and the special effects wizards behind this film. I think it's just great artistic collaboration. And what a way to reawaken what is often a stale genre of cinema, the music biographical film. And picking, I think, at the start of picking someone who feels like an unlikely candidate to have a movie like this made about them, and then putting all this experimentation and this bold swing into the creative process of it. I think it's also a great integrated musical film, where the songs are not just like, oh, great, we're going to see Robbie in concert playing to a crowd, and that's how we're going to hear his songs. Like, no, they become the story, and they become cinematic, and they become expressive. They become a way to express what is inside and making it external. I think that this is so bold, such a huge swing, and it makes me love Robbie Williams' music even more than I already had growing up listening to Rock DJ and really thinking that's one of the coolest music video clips. And I think it makes sense that if you see the Rock DJ music video and then you see this, you go, okay, there is some connective tissue. But I don't know, I just really admired this, to see an experiment on such a big scale. Just riveted. Loved it. Kate, your face is speaking volumes to those of you who are not watching this on the YouTube. Kate has been getting ready for the last 2 minutes as I've been effusively praising Better Man by Michael Gracey.
Look, I just think this film is just not for me. It is a big swing. I love a big swing. I have, Robbie great. It's funny. Better Man as yours and Janet Planet as they couldn't be two more
Mm,
different films as number one in our list. And it is crazy because Hard Truths was our shared number two.
exactly. I think, it's interesting because I think it's. I don't know. For me, I like a big cinematic musical. I like them more than stage and then stage two screen musicals. And I think, one of our other famous disagreements was I loved La La Land. I think this is in the same category as La
Oh
La
boy,
Land.
yeah, absolutely just not a film for me, La La Land. I really, really didn't like that film. And I mean, I love a musical.
Mm.
Maybe I don't like kind of a music, like a film about a, no, that's not true. Trying to think of like a music, like a biopic about a musician. Oh, what's another favorite of yours?
Oh god, the first one that came to mind is so embarrassing because it's like such an art house choice. I love this movie directed by Ethan Hawke called Blaze
Oh,
about
I
this.
loved that film. Yeah, I love
I
that.
love that film. That's the other side of the spectrum of this very low key about an artist you've never heard of. Yeah,
I mean, I immediately thought of like Walk the Line. I really enjoyed
yeah.
that film. That was a while ago. I look, it's a big, 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 big film, and I think it's just like at this time of the year, it just wasn't. It's just not for me.
Wow,
I don't.
wow.
I have no nothing. I thought the performances were really good. Monkey was great. I did really enjoy. I did actually. I really enjoyed. Oh God, what is her name? Plays the mum.
Oh, Kate Mulvaney.
I thought Kate Mulvaney was great. I also thought she hasn't aged, and how is she Robbie Williams' mum? But I thought she's always fantastic. Love Kate Mulvaney. And I thought that I loved all the take that scenes. I thought
Yes.
that was, for me, that was the key to the film. I loved seeing take that kind of coming up in like gay clubs
Mm,
and all that stuff. I really enjoyed that, and I thought those guys were great. It's the monkey for me. I really just couldn't get with the monkey, and I understand the use of the monkey, and I also understand that the monkey was partly used because of was good for Robbie, but to not be in the film, but
mm,
also, and it allowed Robbie to narrate the entire thing. But also that Robbie Williams is not a big figure in America at all,
mm.
and so by having this extra hook to it, that like American audiences and like money industry would be behind it a little bit more. I understand all of it, but I just couldn't gel with Monkey.
Wow. And
I also hate the Planet of the Apes films. Maybe
oh
I don't,
my
and I hated
gosh.
the baboons in Gladiator
Oh my,
2.
I think I'm a monkey man because I
I
love.
didn't like the monkeys in Wicked. I thought
Oh,
that was
okay.
so maybe I'm anti monkey.
You're anti-ape. I'm pro-simian. I love Planet of the Apes. I have Planet of the Apes posters around me. I love them. I love I'm trying to think of other monkeys. I did love the baboons in Gladiator 2. It was probably my favorite thing, apart from,
The sharks.
I don't know. I
Look,
didn't like that movie very much, but the baboons I thought were exciting. They looked insane.
maybe we've cracked it. Maybe the reason why this film is not for
Mm.
me is because I don't like monkeys, CGI
Wow.
monkeys on screen.
What if I propose to you this? If they release like a 4K, they should do a version where you can select the type of animal that you can empathize most with. Like, what if it was a toy poodle doing all these songs or something?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
Top Chef's pretty cheeky.
That
yeah,
was my
all
other-
right.
that
Yeah,
was-
okay.
The other thing I felt this movie would have been so exciting because I would have loved to have seen either one of my two favorite duets of Robbie Williams be brought to life. Nicole Kidman with Something Stupid or Kids with Kylie Minogue. And I think if they had been another kind of creature, like if you met Kylie Minogue and she was like a flamingo or something, that would have been so exciting. Like, oh, these two get each other.
Yeah.
And then I will just say one piece of information for those who are going to see Better Man, take this in with your heart. In real life, Robbie Williams live at the Albert Hall, the concert that serves as the climax for this film, features a duet between Robbie Williams and John Lovitz, which is not in this movie at all. And I think that would be...
That's missing. Yeah.
I mean, I would have loved to have played the John Lovitz character if they were making this in Melbourne.
Yeah, you could have. That would be great. I was reading this interview with Robbie by Simran Hans I think it was in the New York Times, and he was saying
Simeon?
Simran,
Okay.
her name is. Although my brother-in-law's name is Simeon, so
Wow,
there you go.
very exciting.
And I love him, so I'm not anti all Simeons. But anyway, Robbie was talking about how he was starting to feel a little jealous of the monkey because, like, people love the monkey.
Yeah.
And he was like, what if the monkey cracks America and I never could?
Wow.
I think that we're giving apes too much here, too much
Wow.
power.
They're taking too many jobs away from human actors. Well,
Yeah.
that was our top 5 for the year. Kate, let's go through your picks. Just list them all off so people can write them down.
All right. Number 1, Janet Planet by Annie Baker. Number 2, Hard Truths by Mike Lee. 3, Anora by Sean Baker. Number 4, All We Imagine as Light by Payal Kapadia. And number 5, Trap by M. Night Shyamalan.
And for me, I had Better Man, Hard Truths, Furiosa, Love Lies Bleeding, and a sneaky tie between Challengers and Babygirl. Kate, thank you so much for joining me here. I think that I want to get into some more categories with you. I'd love to talk about directorial debuts. I'd love to talk about documentary films. I'd love to talk about Australian films of 2024 with you, and just kind of any honorable mentions. How about we snap this in half and we'll come back next week and chat about all of those? Were you up for this? You up for this?
I am so up for this because you know that I've got like 100 films that I want to pull out at any given time. There were such good films this year.
There were so many great films this year. All right, we're going to do in 2 episodes. This part, we talked about our top 5 or 6 or 7 as in my list. We'll get to all the rest next week. But in the meantime, Kate, you've got a great podcast called See Also. Tell us about See Also. It's my favorite podcast. I listen to it every week.
So I host it with our dear friend Brodie Lancaster. She's a great author, and we just we like to say we connect the dots of pop culture together. So we talk a lot about what's happening in TV and film and music and literature as well, but we also kind of go outside and talk about like bigger topics in life. We recently discussed something. We dedicated a whole episode to stuff. We just talked about stuff, about like owning things, discarding things, how much you really need, things like that. So, and we have lots of special guests on, like you, Alexei.
I've been on it, yes, a couple of times now.
Yeah.
And we've got an episode coming up together where we'll be doing a deep dive on one of our favorite films, Starstruck by Gillian Armstrong. And just, I can't wait to talk about it. We talked about one of my favorite Australian musicals this week on Better Man, and we'll be talking about the other one, Starstruck, coming up soon on See Also.
We sure will.
But I guess another thing I'd say about that podcast is it's great for further reading. If you see something and you want to explore further, you and Brodie are very good at giving further recommendations, kind of like I do on this podcast, but more than just film. You'll give great recommendations for everything from like a candle. I remember Brodie recommended a towel that I bought on an early episode of the podcast. But like really, really, really great stuff, in depth and looking further and continuing and kind of inspiring people to continue exploring further into film, books, culture, TV, everything.
Thanks, Alexei.
My pleasure. Well, come back next week. We're going to be talking about more films from 2024.
The last video store.